Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa and I am here to continue reading in chapter 14 of the book Letters and Numbers written by Zachary K. Hubbard. The name of my channel is called Gnostic Knowledge, and the book Letters and Numbers is a very phenomenal book, and I think everyone on this planet should know the information that is contained within this book. You can get a copy of this book by visiting Zachary K. Hubbard's YouTube channels, Gematria Effect News or Gematria Effect Sports. In the description of each video that he produces, he leaves a link for you to purchase the book. The book is $5. It is a PDF file. There's over 700 pages in this book. Once you pay for it, it comes to you via email, and you would save it to whichever device you're going to use for reading. He left the copyright off this book so that you can take it to your local bindery and have it bound into a book for your own personal library. But having it in the electronic file format is really good because it makes looking for the information in this book easier to find, because there's like 733 pages in this book. And it is a very phenomenal book. The information is just amazing. He also wrote a second book called Number Games, and if you visit his blog page called gematriaeffectnews.blogspot.com, the first thing you'll see is the advertising for the book. You can scroll down until you get to the information on how to purchase the book within the United States and abroad. This book will be in paperback form. If you become a Patreon of Zachary K. Hubbard, for $1 a month, the lowest tier, $1 a month, you can have access to both of these books, Letters and Numbers and Number Games, via PDF file format for $1 a month. The information in these books is just phenomenal, and I can't say enough about everyone needing to know this information. But also Zachary K. Hubbard has another blog page as well, and it is called freetofindtruth.blogspot.com, and he's been blogging on that page for over 5 years, so there's a ton of information there that you can go and read. And this information isn't something that you have to believe in. This is something you can prove, because all of the information is fact-based. It's just, man, it's amazing. But what I am doing, and what I'm going to continue right now, is reading in chapter 14. This will be the second reading. And the name of the chapter is chapter 14, Crusades, War, and World War by the Numbers. And here we go. World War I, July 28th, 1914 until November 11th, 1918. Before we get into the start and end date of the First World War, plus everything else worth covering, I want to point out that the United States Federal Reserve, which is not a federal entity, was established December 23rd, 1913, exactly 227 days before World War I began, or a span of 228 days earlier. Recall that 227 is our number connected to pi, representing cycles and circles, and the number 228 connects to United States of America as well as death. As we'll get to, the United States ended up being a crucial component in the war, and who joined by very familiar numbers just ahead. On the subject of the establishment of the bank, let me recommend the documentary All Wars Are Bankers' Wars, a title you don't want to miss, and one that should be required viewing for youngsters before they can be recruited into the New World Order mercenary killing machine. Before moving on to more undeniable evidence of war by numbers, let us examine the gematria of Federal Reserve, corresponding perfectly with the gematria of Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, summing to 143 and the 23.5 degrees on each leg of the Freemasons' compasses in their well-known logo. Federal Reserve equates to 143 in ordinal. Federal Reserve equates to 235 in reverse ordinal. World War I would begin July 28, 1914, and end November 11, 1918, at reportedly the 11th hour of the day, which was 223 weeks and 6 days, and 6 days later, or a full span of 224 weeks. If you're paying attention, that means the war ended on 11/11, at the 11th hour. That's a lot of ones to conclude World War I, wouldn't you say? Interestingly, the divisors of the number 84 sum to 224, and we know a thing or two about the number 84 at this point in our research. It also factors into the name of the war, which is known as the First World War, summing to 84 in reverse reduction gematria. Okay, as for the date, July 28, it is the 209th day of the year, having numerology of 11, and it leaves 156 days left in the year. As we have learned, the number 911 is the 156th prime, and when 33 is written out as a word, it too sums to 156, where the number 33 corresponds with the number sequence of 11, 11, 11 to conclude the First World War. On the subject of the number 33, here are some relevant terms with gematria of 33 to know. As we decode, don't forget that masonry, secrecy, and order all equate to 33, where the New World Order is the secretive Masonic alliance. So, war games equates to 33 in reduction. Act of war equates to 33 in reduction. War zone equates to 33 in reverse reduction. Thus, to conclude, World War I, the Masonic signatures that are always numerology based were highly present, which means further that from the start to the finish, everything was orchestrated by the code. Thus, it was all unnecessary, and it was all for the sake of the agenda we're living out that has caused needless suffering across the globe for far too long. On the subject of agenda, an important document was created during the war, known as the Balfour Declaration. Balfour, B-A-L-F-O-U-R, the Balfour Declaration. It was crafted by the British government and written to Lord Rothschild, known to be the head of the most powerful Zionist Jewish banking family in the world. The document called for the creation of a Jewish state in the territory of Palestine, which, as we know, was an agenda item completed by the conclusion of World War II. The date of the document was November 2nd, 1917, which was the most perfect date of the year for such a letter to be written. That date can be expressed as 11/2, similar to 112, corresponding with the gematria of mathematics, circle, Judaism, Zionist, and theater, or it can be written 2/11, similar to 211. What is the 47th prime number? And I'm going to read this letter for you. And it was from the Foreign Office, written November 2nd, 1917. Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to, and approved by the cabinet. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. So, consider the Zionist nation of Israel would be officially recognized as an independent nation on November 29, 1947 by the United Nations, with 33 of its members in favor and 13 opposing. As a second reminder, November 29th was the 333rd day of the Gregorian year. Something deeper to consider is that the creation of Israel was explained to the general public as being caused by the Second World War and the aggressions of Hitler, with no mention of the Balfour Declaration upon conclusion of the latter war. It just goes to show the long-nosed liars have been executing a master plan for some time and creating false excuses and distorting history to justify the path of their actions, which never adds up even with the reasons given. Think about it. Why should the Palestinian people have to give up their land for a series of wars they had nothing to do with? And that said, let's compare the name of the document, Balfour Declaration, with New World Order. So, Balfour Declaration equates to 177 in ordinal. New World Order equates to 177 in reverse ordinal. Let's also compare the document name with Israel, which equates to 205 in Jewish gematria, as we learned earlier. Balfour Declaration equates to 205 ALK Kabbalah. Let's also compare the document with the name synagogue, which equates to 129 in ordinal, as covered earlier. Balfour Declaration equates to 129 in reverse reduction, E counted as 22. Don't forget, America also has gematria of 129, who joined the war in April of 1917. In fact, it was the date of April 2nd, or 4/2, that Woodrow Wilson asked Congress for a declaration of war against the German Empire. Notice how the date is similar to 42, corresponding with the gematria of World War and war alone. Think about the initials of the president as well, WW, not unlike the abbreviation for World War. He was the perfect Zionist agent, which is exactly what he was, helping establish the League of Nations, which led to the United Nations, both Zionist-controlled bodies, and joining the war to fight on behalf of the future creation of Israel, a plan that was in the works long before the Balfour Declaration. In light of him being an agent for the establishment of the Synagogue of Satan nation, notice how his name gematria corresponds. So, Woodrow Wilson equates to 205 in ordinal. It was no coincidence he was the 28th president either. Israel equates to 28 in reduction. Zion equates to 28 in reduction. His name also syncs with Masonic and the Synagogue of Satan, Woodrow Wilson equates to 2023 in English Extended. The mathematics give away the undeniable agenda at work and just how coordinated it is, from the planning of names to the dates of important historical events to the sequence of things. For another prime example, let us examine Wilson's birth numerology summing to 114, corresponding with the gematria of World War, President of the United States, and history. He was born December 28, 1856. So 12/28, 1856. 12 plus 28 plus 18 plus 56 equates to 114. Okay? 12, 28, 56. 12 plus 8 plus 56 equates to 96. The United States would officially join the war April 6th, 1917, a date having numerology corresponding with Israel, as well as hero. Think about it. G.I. Joe's, real American heroes. 4/6/1917 equates to 46. 4 plus 6 plus 19 plus 17 equates to 46. 4/6/1917. 4 plus 1 plus 6 plus 1 plus 9 plus 1 plus 7 equates to 28. The word hero equates to 28 in reduction. Hero equates to 46 in ordinal. Israel equates to 28 reduction. Israel equates to 64 in ordinal. The date can be written as 46 or 64. I should mention that Federal Reserve also shares septenary gematria of 64 in the septenary cipher. For the record, April 6th is the 96th day of the year, corresponding with Freemason. And one more time, the divisors of 42 sum to 96, thus making it perfect for a numerology-based entrance into the war after the April 2nd request for a declaration of war and the April 4th vote by Congress recognizing that request. In light of the U.S. Congress validating war on April 4th, please don't forget that military sums to 44, along with a long list of other words relating, including soldier, infantry, etc. Also, don't forget that the divisors of the number 44 sum to 84, which connects to how the war ended November 11th, 1918, exactly 84 weeks after Woodrow Wilson made his request for the United States to participate in the fighting. Also significant is the fact that the United States would declare war on Austria-Hungary, allies of Germany, December 7th, 1917, what would eventually become known as Pearl Harbor Day, due to the December 7th, 1941 attack by supposedly the Japanese on the Hawaii military base. Notice those events were 24 years apart, the reflection of 42, as we'll get to. Japan has gematria of 42, same as war, which is the reflection of 24, and it was the event that is blamed for the United States entering World War II. As they say, history repeats itself. I should mention that from the April 4th declaration of war in 1917 to the December 17 declaration of war was a difference of 257 days, which is the 55th prime number. Wow. December 7th, 1917 was also a date with numerology of 55, the number connecting to God, Satan, Fibonacci, numerology, and sacrifice. So the date 12/7/1917, you would add 12 plus 7 plus 19 plus 17 equates to 55. I should also mention that December 7th, when written 12/7, is a lot like 127, a number representing Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Wow. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry equates to 127 in reduction. For more evidence of the perfect scripting of the war, something that is presented as a historical coincidence was the license plate of the car that belonged to Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who was assassinated June 28, 1914. The event said to be the catalyst for the First World War, beginning exactly 1 month later. Understand, this was a staged event and the excuse for what would become the First World War. All well planned by the numbers, as you should know very well by now. His license plate was A111118. Notice the numbers in that sequence can be represented as 111118, which is the date the war ended. Again, I'll remind you to watch the film The Number 23, and you'll notice how the number 23 is coded in a number of ways in that same film on license plates, doors, addresses, and more throughout the film. If you pay attention to your nightly news, it occurs again and again. False flags by the numbers and emergency vehicles parked and shown on camera that have the numbers to correspond with the date. These are played out practices that must be exposed, and by recognizing them for more than coincidence, it becomes very clear what has been taking place all throughout history. As for the date of Franz Ferdinand's assassination, it was a span of 174 days before his 51st birthday, which would have been December 18, 1914, being born in 1863. Recall how the number 174 connects to the New World Order. For a moment, let's examine his birth numerology, connecting to the dots even deeper, and the understanding why it was him who was chosen to be the catalyst for this important war in history that is mostly overlooked in U.S. public school classrooms for fear of the fact that students would realize the agenda of the establishment of Israel, which was a key component in the U.S. involvement of the war, where these same U.S. students are programmed to think that Israel was established because of Adolf Hitler and the aggression of the Nazis. Just one of the many lies where again in war the first casualty is the truth. Wow. As for the date December 18, we'll begin with the numerology of his birthday, December 18, 1863. 12/18/63. 12 plus 18 plus 63 equals 93. As we know, the number 93 represents Saturn. The date December 18 can also be expressed as 18/12, and in numerology terms, 18 becomes 9 and 12 becomes 3, similar to 93. Beyond that, if you write out December 18th as words, it sums to 93 in reduction gematria. Wow. December 18th also has gematria of 156, reminding of how the war began 1 month after his death, on the day leaving 156 days left in the year. Wow, so December 18th equates to 156 in ordinal. As we know, when you write out 33, it equates to 156. Notice how the date December 18th also shares gematria of 330, connecting back to what we learned about war games, active war, war zone, and more. Wow. So, December 18th, written as words, equates to 330 in reverse ordinal, but you would only pay attention to 33. The 3-3. The gematria name the gematria name of the the gematria of the name Franz Ferdinand is also telling, reminding that the world is a stage, at least to the tyrants, who try to play us all for fools. Before decoding, please think back to the G-Spot chapter and how Judaism, Zionist, and theater each equate to the number 77. Franz Ferdinand equates to 77 in reduction. Let us now advance to World War II, where the number 33 was large and in charge. All right. World War II, September 1, 1939 to September 2nd, 1945. Okay. The Great War as it is often recalled, summing to 39 in reduction and reminding of the number of books in the Old Testament, began in 39. But we must start with the appointment of Adolf Hitler as Chancellor of Germany on January 30th, 1933, bringing rise to the popularity of the Nazi Party, short for the National Socialist German Workers' Party. The date of the beginning of his rise to power couldn't have been any more perfect for a major government appointment for the nation of Germany, which was in a place of financial despair due to the Treaty of Versailles, a treaty having the same gematria as the Synagogue of Satan, signed in 1919, and the 1921 London Schedule of Payments, a title having the same gematria as New World Order, which required Germany to pay 132 billion in gold marks, the equivalent of $33 billion in U.S. currency, in reparations to cover the damages caused during the First World War. Remember that number 132 is anything but arbitrary and is the product of 33 times 4. As for the date of Hitler's appointment, let's examine the numerology in light of the gematria of Germany. While not forgetting that government equates to 130, similar to 1/30. For the date of January 30th, 1933, when he received his title of Chancellor. Wow. So 130, 1933, you add 1 plus 30 plus 19 plus 33 equates to 83. Germany equates to 83 in ordinal. London Schedule of Payments equates to 83 in the septenary cipher. The same date also has numerology of 64, connecting to Israel and Zion in the ordinal cipher. Okay. Keep in mind, Hitler was the same man who was used as the reasoning for the establishment of the Jewish state that was well in the works by the Zionist cabal long before 1933. Consider further, Germany was in financial ruin, but somehow, some way, they found lenders to refinance one of the greatest militaries the world has ever seen. Now, who do you think that was? If you know your history, It was the same Jewish banker, tyrants who always pay for both sides of the war and who controlled the Bank of England as well as the U.S. Federal Reserve. So either Hitler was played or he willingly played his part for the same minions who were contriving the path for the establishment of the nation of the synagogue of Satan. Personally, looking at the facts, I lean towards the idea that Hitler was a willing accomplice in the agenda that was, because I cannot explain how he would knowingly allow his military to be financed by the same people who spoke against, the same people he spoke against, which was the case, unless he did so because it was the only means possible to achieve what he set out to achieve. At the same time, one must consider why Jewish bankers would finance a man who was determined to wipe them off from the face of the earth, unless they knew he was truly playing his part in their cause. I'm telling you. To further the idea I am putting forth, let's decode the name Adolf Hitler in light of his April 20th, 1889 birthday. We will also examine his birth numerology. So, the word Adolf equates to 38 in ordinal. Jew equates to 38 in ordinal. Germany equates to 38 in reduction. The word Jew equates to 38 in ordinal, and Germany equates to 38 in reduction. Hitler equates to 72 in ordinal. Jesuit order equates to 72 reverse reduction. The word world has ordinal gematria of 72, as in World War. The name Jesuit order has reverse reduction gematria of 72, as in the Masonic gang operating on behalf of the Catholic Church. On the subject of the Jesuits, a number of historians contend the same gang protected Hitler after he faked his death at the end of World War II and helped him hide in Argentina, a nation that is a Catholic stronghold. While this allegation is a conspiracy theory, it is very possible, especially considering Hitler's body was never recovered at the end of the war, and considering the history of the Jesuits as well as what we have unlocked about the encoding of their favorite number 84 and the history of World War plus more. For people to just accept the historical narrative of his body never being found is to accept being mocked with an obvious lie. How could his body not be recovered? These were the types of things we would be taught in our history books in public school that would drive me up the wall as a child, especially when I would question my teachers and they wouldn't know what to say. Dang. Back on the subject of the name gematria of Adolf Hitler. If you add Adolf and Hitler together, it equates to 110, matching the ordinal value of president, what he eventually became for Germany. Even better, the number 110 also corresponds perfectly with his birthday, April 10th, which is the 110th day of the Gregorian year. Making matters even more interesting, his birth numerology equates to 113, the number corresponding with the Talmud's Baba, 1138, having to do with dishonesty. Absolutely. So for 2089, you would add 4 plus 20 plus 89 equates to 113. Even more condemning, the name Adolf Hitler in reverse ordinal gematria equates to the infamous number 187. Wow. As we know, that number is highly symbolic to Freemasonry, and would you believe the gematria of Nazi? it sums to 58, corresponding with the gematria of Freemasonry, secret society, Solomon's Temple, and more. My goodness, Nazi equates to 58 reverse ordinal. This is interesting to consider because Hitler spoke out against Freemasonry, having the Masonic lodges of Germany closed because he alleged this is where the Jewish tyrants were conspiring within their lodges to hurt the working non-Jewish people of his nation. If you have never taken the time to hear the words of Hitler, I think they are something every person should do. Many things he spoke about, I think most sane people would agree with. When he talks about how the Jewish-controlled media was poisoning the minds of Americans and creating a class of people who were obsessed with materialism and gangsters, it is hard to disagree, especially looking at the world we live in today. Hitler clearly identified an agenda that was very real and very detrimental to us as a people. Personally, my take on Hitler is that he was used to speak truth about important matters so that by the end of the war, which was planned before it began, the truths he spoke could be associated with the evil and all things wrong, which is exactly what has been done. This tactic is known as controlled opposition, where an entity will identify the forces working against it, then secretly find a means to control that same oppositional force so that they can turn it astray and or sabotage it, thus eliminating the threat. In history, this has been done with a number of groups, from the Black Panther Party to Occupy to Black Lives Matter to the more current Antifa. Wow. I'll let you be the final judge of what you think happened with Hitler and who he really was, because no matter the case, knowing the code easily identifies the parties who are truly responsible, which was not Hitler. Having covered what we already have, it couldn't be any more clear that Hitler and the Nazi Party were used as scapegoats ultimately. For the record, the term scapegoat comes from the Bible and Judaism, where, as described in Leviticus 16, a goat would be sacrificed symbolically to help clear the sins of the Jewish people who the sacrifice was performed for, helping free the same people from their wrongdoing. Not coincidentally, scapegoat has reduction gematria of 33, like the year Hitler would come to power. Wow. So scapegoat equates to 33 in reduction. 16 equates to 33 in reduction. And the date, January 30th, 33. You add 1 plus 30 plus 33, it equates to 64. The word scapegoat also shares gematria of 113 in Francis Bacon. If you read Leviticus 16, part of the ritual of the scapegoat involves burning an animal on an altar. This is fascinating, considering the word Holocaust means burnt animal offering on an altar as part of a Jewish ritual, and it was the word chosen for the biggest lie of World War II above all. In gematria terms, notice how Holocaust overlaps with the word scapegoat, and obviously not coincidentally. Holocaust equates to 33 in reduction. Again, as mentioned earlier, it was reported in numerous papers across the world for several decades leading up to World War I and World War II that 6 million Jews had been killed in some corner of the world, which is a historical fact about manufactured propaganda that everyone reading can verify. Most often, it was reported that 6 million had died in some place in Russia, where the Bolshevik Revolution would take place, beginning March 18, 1917, before ending November 7, 1917, 35 weeks later, which was a genocide of the Russian people, led by the Jewish bankers and their paid-for mercenaries. Don't overlook that the date March 8th can be expressed as 3/8, not unlike 38, or the gematria of Jew, and it can also be expressed as 8/3, similar to 83, where both the numbers 38 and 83 correspond with the gematria of murder, which is what war is. The New York Times alone printed the story on at least this many dates. And I'm going to read these dates because there are a lot of them. So, the New York Times, they reported this story on June 11th, 1900. January 29th, 1905. November 1st, 1905. March 25th, 1906. October 31st, 1911. December 2nd, 1914. January 14th, 1915. February 28th, 1916. October 18th, 1918. September 8th, 1919. November 12th, 1919. May 1st, 1920. May 2nd, 1920. May 3rd, 1920. May 5th, 1920. May 7th, 1920. July 20th, 1921. April 21st, 1926. March 29th, 1933. And June 1st, 1933. First documented use of the term Holocaust in 33. Boy. September 8th, 1935. May 31st, 1936. Use of Holocaust again in this reported story. Okay. February 23rd, 1938. May 2nd, 1938. January 15th, 1939. June 25th, 1940. October 2nd, 1941. December 13th, 1942. March 2nd, 1934. January 8th, 1945. February 11th, 1945. February 17th, 1945. May 2nd, 1945. May 20th, 1945. This is crazy. The copies of the papers still exist, and many historians have taken to the internet to share these newspapers so that the world can know the truth. The problem is not enough people are looking. Also, as a reminder, the number 6 million dead Jews come from the Talmud, where it is said that 6 million Jews must die for Israel to be reclaimed. Understanding that there was an agenda in place long before World War II to establish Israel, and an agenda in place by those who follow the Babylonian Talmud as well as the Babylonian practices of Kabbalah, it isn't hard to see who is responsible for the repeated lies that are still with us today. I am hoping with the release of this book, we'll be able to wake up enough people to shut down the propaganda distribution service that the New York Times is forever, along with the rest of the propaganda-based media, which is all of the rest. If all goes to plan, it will be just like the conclusion of the film They Live. Where the tyrants are no longer allowed to hide in plain sight, and their end comes to a very rapid conclusion. As you can verify, these news which rhymes with Jews services have been allowed to operate for far too long. pushing nothing more than manufactured lies, which comes with many real world consequences. Keep in mind, the people who publish this crap do go by the Talmud and think they are sanctioned by God to lie to you, knowing full well that their God is Satan. Absolutely. The word God equates to 61, Jewish gematria. The word news equates to 61 in ordinal cipher. Ask yourself, who needs a cleansing? As I've said many times to my followers before, the only thing wrong with the Holocaust is it never happened. And no, that doesn't mean all Jews deserve death, but it does mean a lot of them do, because the people who we call Jews, who are not even really Jews, almost all follow the Talmud without exception. And like their own book says, they know what is coming to them the day the Goyim find out. In case you forgot, I'll remind you one more time what has been written in their words, so don't shoot the messenger. Sanhedrin 59a. To communicate anything to a Goy about our religious relations would be equal to the killing of all Jews. For if the Goyim knew what we teach about them, they would kill us openly. Absolutely. 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 Awesome, Zach. Awesome. Don't forget the word kill has Jewish gematria of 59 either. Absolutely. Back on the subject of one of the world's most recognized names when it comes to well-established pushers of propaganda. Notice how the gematria of New York Times connects to Freemason and conspiracy through the number 147 and New World Order through 177. Don't forget, new rhymes with Jew either. Don't forget. Okay, New York Times equates to 147 reverse ordinal. New York Times equates to 177 in ordinal. Propaganda equates to 177 in reverse ordinal. Jesuit order equates to 177 in ordinal. Fittingly, the New York Times was established on a date with numerology of 33 as well as 96, where the number 33 connects to Masonry and 96 connects to Freemason. That was September 18th, 1851, and don't forget, conspiracy has gematria of 51. Yes, so the date 9/18/1851. 9 plus 1 plus 8 plus 1 plus 8 plus 5 plus 1 equates to 33. And the date 9/18/1851, you would add 9 plus 18 plus 18 plus 51. 51 equates to 96. All right. On the subject of propaganda, conspiracy, and the New York Times being pushers of nothing more than lies and disinformation, the headline shown is reporting from the New York Times dated May 21st, 2013, meant to mock people who seek truth by using that very detrimental and well-programmed phrase, conspiracy theories. And I'm going to show you that headline right now, that mocking headline. Okay? Alrighty. Consider this article came on the 141st day of the year, where 33, when written out, sums to 141. Consider further, the name of the author of the article, Maggie, sums to 33 in reduction, and has the full name and has the full name Maggie Coworth Baker, which connects even deeper and translates as follows. And I'm going to show you Maggie Coworth Baker's names, and you can maybe take a screenshot, but that's the decode with her name. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Okay, now Maggie Coworth Baker equates to 84 in reduction cipher. Maggie Coworth Baker equates to 96 reverse reduction. Maggie Coworth Baker equates to 156 ordinal. Maggie Coworth Baker equates to 303 in reverse ordinal. If you're not aware, nearly every journalist uses a contrived name in the media, something we'll touch on more when we get to the USA Today article written about me from January 27, 2016 that begins by questioning if Zachary K. Hubbard is my real name, which it is. In the case of Maggie, you can have little doubt her name is manufactured by the code, because after all, if you're going to fulfill the job of doing nothing but pushing lies and distorting the truth, do you really want to put your real name on it? Her true name most likely ends with a Berg or Stein, as those types are well known to fill most media positions and are equally as known for trying to hide their true identities by changing their names, even though their noses give them away every time. For kicks, let us examine a recent tweet from Maggie, which reminds that the false Jews are always working overtime to remind of their fictional propaganda while demonizing the people who question their lies. Don't overlook the tweet time either, or date. So I'm going to turn this around so you can see her tweet as well. Maybe you can take a screenshot of it if you need to, so you can get the date and what she said. Okay, so as for the gematria of Maggie's name, the 84 connects to Masonry and Jesuit. Oh, and I overlooked Bavarian Illuminati equates to 188 in ordinal. But anyway, let me read her tweet. Maggie Coworth Baker. So one day the Nazis show up and ask, "Are you hiding Jews?" And the lady tells them, "Yep, they're under the table." That was at 7:47 a.m. August 18th, 2017. Okay. As for the gematria of Maggie's name, the 84 connects to Masonry, and Jesuit, the 96 connects. I misread that. As for the gematria of Maggie's name, the 84 connects to Masonry and Jesuit. The 96 connects to the establishment date of her paper as well as Freemason. The 156 connects to the gematria of 33 when written out as a word. And the number 303 is a big one, with the Jesuits matching the gematria of Saint Ignatius of Loyola, the man credited with establishing the order. It's also very similar to 33, the gang's signature. Keep in mind, what is true of Maggie's name is true of all media types. This is how it works for all outlets, from the New York Times to the rest. Speaking of Freemason and New World Order, and to get back onto the subject of World War II, the Jewish motto to remember the fictional Holocaust, no more real than a Hollywood flick, is never again. Let us take a moment to decode it. The phrase, okay, never again equates to 51 in reduction. Never again equates to 57 reverse reduction. Never again equates to 93 reverse reduction, E counted as 22. Never again equates to 96 in ordinal. Never again equates to 174 in reverse ordinal. As you'll recall, the number 51 connects to Freemason and conspiracy. The number 57 connects to Scottish Rite and conspiracy. The number 93 connects to propaganda, as well as Saturn, the entity representing Satan, and the date the borders of Israel were drawn up, September 3rd, 1947. Also, the number 174, you now know well, symbolizing the New World Order and more. To make a point understood, outside of Hollywood, there is no such thing as the Holocaust. It is why the false Jews release a film each year about the event that never happened to keep the lie going, while at the same time publishing history books that justify the genocide of others, such as the Native Americans. Out of all the propaganda films made about the movie, the most cherished, released in 1993 by Steven Spielberg, and was titled Schindler's List, released December 15, 1993, a very specific date, just before Christmas. It was based on the story of the man named Oscar Schindler, Oskar, Oscar Schindler. Before we break down the date, notice the relevant gematria. So, the name Spielberg equates to 93 in ordinal. Propaganda equates to 93 in ordinal. Oscar Schindler equates to 93 reduction. K counted as 11. S counted as 10. Fittingly, Oscar Schindler, who the film is named after, died October 9th, 1974, a date with numerology of 93. As we decode the date, consider that we learned about Jesus Christ on the cross in regards to the numbers 74 and 93. So the date 10/9/74, you would add 10 plus 9 plus 74 equates to 93. 10/9/1974, 10 plus 9 plus 19 plus 74 equates to 112. Consider how theater, Zionist, and Judaism all have gematria of 112 in light of the date of his death. Even more, Oscar Schindler died on his 165th day of being 66 years old, where the number 165 corresponds with the Scottish Rite. Wow. So Oscar Schindler equates to 66 in the reduction cipher. The name Schindler alone sums to the familiar number 47 in reduction gematria. Wow. As for the release date of the film, December 15th, 1993, about his life and heroics during World War II, it had numerology of 139, connecting to the gematria of Jewish state, Jerusalem, and Freemasonry. Wow. So the date 12/15/1993, 12 plus 15 plus 19 plus 93 equates to 139. For something to pay attention to going forward, you will notice how the popular movie review services give. For something to pay attention to going forward, you will notice how the popular movie review services give ratings that again and again correspond with the gematria of the film title or events pertaining to the film. In fact, it is this way for nearly every Hollywood release there is, proving that the reviews are as bogus as the lies told within them. If you have Netflix, it is comical how the top rated movies across the board are all about the Holocaust, and it isn't hard to understand why. Don't forget that Hollywood, propaganda, hoax, Freemason, and Illuminati all share the same gematria of 48, where the number 223 is the 48th prime number. For the record, the name Spielberg, considered to be a Hollywood great, also equates to 48. Getting back to the year 33, when the most evil man in the world came to power, Hitler, the year connects to the temporary name of Germany, the Weimar Republic, W-E-I-M-A-R, which it was known as from 1919 to 1933, essentially from the end of World War I to the rise of Hitler during the time of the nation's financial duress. Wow. It also connects to the names Berlin, Nazis, Zyklon B, and Holocaust, where Zyklon B is the chemical falsely blamed for the gassing of Jews in the fictional Holocaust that never happened, and which there is no documented evidence of anywhere outside the Nuremberg trial lies. Lies which have been mostly retracted, such as the Nazis made furniture out of the skin of deceased Jews. Take the time to do some research on Zyklon B, Zyklon, and you'll discover that, according to the testimony given at the Nuremberg trials, the way it was supposedly used proves that it couldn't have killed anyone. This is because Zyklon B has to be heated to a high temperature to release the deadly poison, not tossed into the cells of Jewish prisoners through air vents by German soldiers, as was reported at the trials. As we decode, don't forget how we learned war games, active war, and war zone all equate to 33, same as masonry and secrecy. So the word Weimar, W-E-I-M-A-R, equates to 33 in reduction. Berlin equates to 33 in reduction. Nazi, N-A-Z-I-S, equates to 33 in reduction. S counted as 10. Zyklon B equates to 33 reduction. Holocaust equates to 33 reduction. Holocaust equates to 42 reduction. S counted as 10. Holocaust supposedly began in 42. Lying boy. Let us also examine the gematria of Weimar Republic. But first, recall that the numbers 74 and 223 represent Masonic, and the number 223 also represents the Synagogue of Satan. Weimar Republic equates to 74 in reduction. Weimar Republic equates to 223 ALW Kabbalah. In this study, the numbers 33 and 74 are often paired together, especially when something is being set up for the fall, which is a point we will make abundantly clear in the next chapter on September 11, 2001, in regards to the World Trade Centers, a project and sinister plan instigated by the Zionist Jew Rockefeller family, who are in relation to the Rothschild banker tyrants and warmongers. Wow. As you learned earlier, Jesus and cross have gematria of 74, and it is believed he was killed at age 33, put to death at the behest of the false Jews, which are the light-skinned ones. It is from this same relationship that the meaning of the pairing of 74 and 33 are derived. In this case, the same network of tyrants were setting up Germany for its own form of crucifixion, and just as the false Jews demonized Jesus, they have since demonized Hitler, both being men who spoke truth to power, and both who called out the same common enemy, the false Jew, where Jesus speaks clearly of who they are and what they are about in Matthew 10. Speaking of which, the Jewish boycott of Germany began April 1st, 1933, on the most perfect date of the calendar year for the Jews to collaborate in such a cause against the nation that they did. Wow. Let me reread that. Speaking of which, the Jewish boycott of Germany began April 1st, 1933, on the most perfect date of the calendar year for the Jews to collaborate in such a cause against the nation that they did. Keep in mind, Germany was a nation already suffering from reparations they were made to pay by the Zionist councils that applied the financial punishments as they did in the wake of World War I. If you're not aware, it was these financial punishments and this additional boycott that helped Hitler persuade the masses to see the common enemy of the nation, which was the Jews who had aligned against them. Before we examine the date numerology of April 1st, 1933, recall that Jews sums to 57 in ordinal, just like moon, which the Jews identify through, and the singular Jew equates to 38 in ordinal, similar to how Germany equates to 38 in reduction. So, 4-1-1933, 4 plus 1 plus 19 plus 33 equates to 57. 4-1-33, 4 plus 1 plus 33 equates to 38. And this is the Don't Buy German Goods logo. Well, you know, the boycott is not a logo, but that's the sign that was made. Anywho, for the record, this boycott began precisely 61 days after Hitler became Chancellor, and again, the number 61 corresponds with time, as well as Adolf Hitler, as well as Jesus, as well as cross, as well as Christian, which Hitler was said to be. Oh my goodness. Adolf Hitler equates to 61 in reverse reduction. Again, everything that has taken place and is taking place in this world in terms of what comes from the media and government is biblically based, because it is following the laws of Kabbalah, which is a biblical language. This is precisely the reason why World War II would officially begin in 1939, emphasis on 39 syncing with the number of books in the Old Testament, which the Jewish faith goes by. Let us now examine the start date of the war, September 1st, 1939, in relation to its conclusion, September 2nd, 1945, 6 years and 1 day later, where the number 61 again symbolizes time, Christianity, and all the other important things we have covered up to this point. Beginning with the date September 1st, written commonly as 1/9, it generates a number sequence that is similar to the number 19, or when written 9/1, a number similar to 91. It is these numbers that represent chaos, where the motto is order out of chaos. As we decode, don't forget the 19 hijackers on September 11th, 2001, a number we will learn more about in the chapter on false flags by the numbers. And don't overlook the fact that April 1st, 1933 was also the 91st day of the year, the start day of the boycott that was the main catalyst for the war to come. So chaos equates to 19 in reduction. Chaos equates to 19 in the Chaldean cipher. Chaos equates to 91 in Frank Bacona's cipher. At the end of the war, September 2nd, 1945, appropriately had numerology of 75 corresponding with the gematria of New World Order and order out of chaos, as well as order and history, just as we learned to start the chapter, where the American Revolutionary War began in 1775 on April 19th. On the 19th of April, sorry. So, 9 to 1945, you would add 9 plus 2 plus 19 plus 45 equates to 75. Pearl Harbor equates to 75, reverse reduction, H counted as 10. For good measure, let's also review how the United States became involved in the war in an act of order out of chaos with the attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941, the 24th year anniversary of the declaration of war against Austria-Hungary. The perfect year for the USA to become involved, where no doubt the island was attacked by our own military with our own aircraft painted with the Japanese flag, thus where the term false flag comes from, an old pirate trick to place blame for wrongdoing on a party not responsible. Wow. Let us decode these terms, as well as Hawaii, to see how it all comes together. And for the record, only 3 states sums to 33 in gematria with the reduction method. They are the first state, Delaware, also established on a date with 33 numerology, December 7th, 1787. Massachusetts, the 6th state, and Hawaii, the 50th and final state. False flag equates to 33 in reduction. Pirate equates to 33 in reduction. Blame equates to 33 in ordinal. Don't forget how scapegoat equates to 33. Hawaii equals 33 in reduction. Hawaii, 33 in reduction. Think about it. Why would Japan, who was already stretched thin fighting on the many fronts they were, and who was allied with Germany, another nation having an army already stretched thin, attack the United States and bring a military superpower into the fight? It would be an illogical thing to do, and logic is key in all things, especially war, where it is life and death. If you have to get the point through your head when you are in the military, you take orders and you do what you're told, which includes attacking your own people if it is for a strategic objective. Because the thing is, the people in control of the military, they don't care one lick about the nation the soldiers represent. They care about the Zionist agenda and nothing more. That's what it is in the age of the New World Order. And if you're an American, you should know damn well your average man doesn't care anything about anything but themselves 7 times out of 10. As Hitler said, the Jews raised a nation of losers in America, selfish people, out for themselves, obsessed with materialism, riches, and gangster culture. If you would say otherwise, I'd tell you, crawl out from under your rock. The superficial, nice to your face, stab you in the back mentality of most Americans doesn't count for moral values. There's a reason the U.S. has more homeless people than the rest of the world combined, and it isn't coincidence. Wow. Rants about the people of the United States aside, the same group of sheep who can't see through the most obvious lies in the history books, including Christopher Columbus and September 11, 2001, which has been referred to as the new Pearl Harbor, let us examine the condemning gematria of the event known as Pearl Harbor. It is undeniable evidence of the contrived theater of war, where again the first casualty is the truth, and which is another event Hollywood made a movie about. So, Pearl Harbor equates to 114 in the ordinal cipher. World War equates to 114 ordinal. History equates to 114 in the ordinal cipher. Conquest equates to 114 in ordinal cipher. Wow. The title, Pearl Harbor, also has gematria of 93, corresponding with propaganda, as well as Japan, who the attack was blamed on. Wow. So Pearl Harbor 93, reverse reduction. E counted as 22. Japan 93 in reverse ordinal. Consider Japan also has gematria of 42, the number of war and world war. Wow. Japan 42 in ordinal. Of course, the United States and Japan have been best buddies in trade since the end of the war, with two of the biggest exports of Japan and imports of the United States being Honda and Toyota automobiles. Honda equates to 42 ordinal. Toyota equates to 96 in ordinal. On the subject of Japan, we should also discuss the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Knowing that Japan equates to 93, notice how atomic bomb also factors in. Atomic bomb equates to 93 in the ordinal cipher. Notice the age of the last surviving crew member of the plane that dropped the bomb on that fateful day. So right here, National History is a headline. It says, last surviving member of Enola Gay dead at 93. Shit, 93. So let me reread this. Notice the age of the last surviving crew member of the plane that dropped the bomb on that fateful day. I'd bet you anything he didn't go out naturally. Again, what goes around comes around, and when you serve the tyrants, they become the owners of your soul. Speaking of which, his birthday was said to be February 27, 1921, a date having to do with pi, and he died July 28, 2014, the 100-year anniversary of the start of World War I, as part of one big, sick, and circular joke, all by the same repetitive code. As for the date of the bombing, of Hiroshima, it was highly symbolic, coming on August 6th, 1945, a date that can be written as 8/6, similar to 86, reminding how in the year 1933 the term 86th was derived, meaning to get rid of. As we learned earlier, the words symbol, triangle, and pyramid each equate to 86, as does Eye of Providence, the well-known symbol at the top of the pyramid on the U.S. $1 bill. The bombing of Nagasaki would come 3 days later, August 9th, if 6 was 9. And you should know that chaos, a fitting word to match the destruction, has reverse ordinal gematria of 89. Wow. If you close your eyes now and think about these incidents, you can likely see the mushroom clouds perfectly in your mind's eye, proving just how ingrained they are. Harry S. Truman, the 33rd President of the United States, ordered those bombings after completing the Trinity test in the 47th state, New Mexico, on the 33rd parallel north, July 16, 1945, 21 days before the United States became the first and only nation to use atomic weapons in an act of war. Notice the date of the test had 33 numerology, and the gematria of Trinity corresponds with the test being conducted in the 47th state, where 47 symbolizes time, tying in with the gematria of 93 for atomic bomb, which also syncs with Saturn, the keeper of time, having to do with death and judgment. At the same time, Saturn also has gematria of 21, the distance in days. Wow. Man. So the date 7/16/1945, you would add 7 plus 1 plus 6 plus 1 plus 9 plus 4 plus 5 equates to 33. Trinity equates to 47 in reverse reduction. Okay, now the date 7/16/45, 7 plus 16 plus 45 equates to 68. Hiroshima would be bombed on August 6th or 6/8. 7/16, add 7 plus 16 equates to 23. Symbol equates to 22 reverse reduction. Wow. Okay. Maybe he meant 23 there. I am going to look that word up really quickly to see here in symbol. Just give me 1 second. Okay, where was I at? Symbol. Yes, symbol equates to 23 in reduction cipher. Alrighty. And moving right along. To close this section on World War II, I want to remind you that the face of the war, Adolf Hitler, reportedly died despite his body never being found April 30th, 1945, 10 days after his 56th birthday in the month of April, not unlike Abraham Lincoln. In reduction gematria, Adolf Hitler sums to 56, similar to the gematria of president, and in order gematria, the month of April also equates to 56. Wow, so Adolf Hitler, 56 in reduction, April equates to 56 in ordinal. As for the date of his passing, it matches with the gematria of suicide, where that is the official cause of death per the history books. Something I never understood as a child is how his cause of death could be known if his body was never recovered. So for the date 4/30, 4 plus 30 equals 34. Suicide equates to 34 in reduction. From Hitler's birthday to his date of death, the numbers were perfect. Again, leading myself to believe that this entire known existence was all part of the planned script by those that are commonly referred to as the Illuminati, the enlightened ones, speaking of which his date of death is the 120th day of the year. Illuminati equates to 120 in ordinal. That said, he was chosen for a reason, and what he spoke about, the common enemy of this world, was an absolute gospel. If anyone tells you Hitler was evil, surely that person is ignorant of the facts. Ignorant of the facts, doped up on Hollywood propaganda films and not much else, while knowing little about the leaders of their own nation, outside of the nicely contrived narratives crafted for them, to cast them in the best light possible. Wow. Reread that. Okay, I want to reread that, please. If anyone tells you Hitler was evil, surely that person is ignorant of the facts, doped up on Hollywood propaganda films, and not much else, while knowing little about the leaders of their own nation outside of the nicely contrived narratives crafted for them to cast them in the best light possible. The next time you hear someone say Hitler was a racist, remind them that Jewish isn't a race, it is a choice of religious supremacy, and if they're worried about races, they should look into some other leaders, such as Teddy Roosevelt, who gave a speech about how Hawaii needed to be taken from the Asians and be made a U.S. territory for the sake of preserving the white race. Think about that in light of the same U.S. territory in the middle of the Pacific being used as a false flag to dupe young American men and women into participating in a war that was only about helping create a nation for the synagogue of Satan, because that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Nothing more, nothing less. Better yet, look at the current president as I write this. A racist, a bigot, a spreader of hate, and nothing sensible to say, unlike Hitler, who was brilliant and spoke much truth. But take my word for it. Listen yourself. His speeches are a web search away, and they're better than any given by any fraudulent Freemason leader of the United States of America has ever had. Period. Alrighty. And that concludes my second reading of chapter 14. The Crusades, Wars, and World Wars by the Numbers. I hope you enjoyed the reading. I hope it will prompt you to go and buy the book Letters and Numbers by visiting Zachary K. Hubbard's YouTube channels, Gematria Effect News or Gematria Effect Sports, and pay $5 for the book. He leaves a link in every description of the videos that he produces. Visit his blog page, gematriaeffectnews.blogspot.com, and order his paperback book, Number Games. Read the blogs on his blog page. Visit his other blog page, freetofindtruth.blogspot.com. He's blogged there for over 5 years. There's a mass amount of information for you to read. Look into other truth seekers. When you go to gematrinator.com, there is a tab there that says blogs. Look under that tab and find other bloggers that are on there. Visit Simple Truth Television on YouTube. Visit Chikozi Truth. Visit Zenith of the Alphas YouTube channel. Kayla Decode Talker. Dr. Savage. There's quite a few people. And there's another blog page I really like. Her name is Altium Gematria. I hope I'm saying it right. No, is it gematriaaltium.blogspot.com. She does really good decodes as well, but I want to make sure I'm telling you that name correctly. Yeah, it's gematriaaltium.blogspot.com. simpletruth.blogspot.com. You know, go and read this information. Learn this skill, because it is something that you can learn and you can understand if you put forth the effort to see what's really going on. So, this concludes my second reading of chapter 14. When I return, I will be on page 296, starting with the Korean War. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the reading. Give the video a like, share it so someone else can find the information. Have a good night. Until next time. Bye.